San Diego State is playing for a national championship on Monday night. It's just so weird still to say that. What a win last night. San Diego State over FAU. I was working, so I couldn't do an immediate reaction, and just wanted to be fully up to everything that happened in this game before I did give my reaction. So here we go. FAU, San Diego State. San Diego State knocks them off 72-71. They were outscored in the first half, 40-33, but then they outscored FAU by 8 points in the second half. I was sitting there watching the game on my phone, on the trolley a little bit, and when I got to my work, and I was like, "Uh-oh, okay, they're down double digits." They were down as much as 14 points in this game. They were down. I remember them being down 11, and I think that was after the little elbow by Micah Parrish, right? That totally felt like a Kemba Walker flop moment. I mean, come on, right? That's what I totally went to. That's what I connected it to right when that happened. Parrish barely bumps the guy, and he totally does a flop job. Like Parrish like punched him in the ribs, and it ends up being 2 free throws for FAU. They make both. Then they get the ball back. Then I think there was a foul on a three-pointer, so that was 3 free throws there, and they shouldn't even had the ball there. It should have been San Diego State's ball, in my opinion. Like that should not warrant 2 free throws and you get the ball. So 3 free throws there. They make those 3 free throws. Now that's 5 points that maybe shouldn't have even been on the board. And now San Diego State's down like 9, I think, or something at that point. Then it was 11. Again, it was as much as 14 points. And I'm sitting there during the second half where it's like a 9-point game or a 7-point game. And it's like, okay, if you take 5 points away from FAU, it's a 1-score game. And I definitely felt like that sequence there with the Parrish bump, it was not like a huge elbow. I think it was more just a bump with the elbow. Um, I thought that was going to probably come back to bite San Diego State. That was going to come back to hurt SDSU because you knew it was going to be a close game. You just didn't know if San Diego State was going to be the one that ended up winning by like 1 or 2 or 3, right? So I was a little bit worried there. FAU obviously went on a big run. I think it was beginning of the second half. But then San Diego State came back. I want to give props to Matt Bradley. Man, he hadn't really gotten going yet in the tournament. He ends up scoring 21 points in this game. Beginning of the game, he was hitting multiple threes, and it was like I felt really good at the beginning because when Matt was hitting multiple threes there, it's like, okay, well, San Diego State, look, they've been able to win these games with Matt, their best player, right? Not being totally right shooting wise, offensively. But if they have him right here in the Final Four game offensively, they're going to win this game. But then they were down double digits, and the free throws were a big thing, right? You compare FAU and San Diego State's free throws. There's a huge gap there. 16 for 21 for FAU. San Diego State, only 3 fewer free throws that they made, but it was 13 for 22. They shot a little bit more free throws, 59.1% from the line and 76.2% for FAU. Like, if you shoot a little bit better there from the free throw line, maybe that game doesn't come down to Lamont Butler having to make the shot of his life and one of the biggest moments in March Madness history. I know it's not like Duke against Kentucky, but it's a game-winning shot in the Final Four to send your team to the Natty. That is such a huge moment. And by the way, I'm going to praise Lamont, obviously. But when I was watching this, the screen that I was watching it on was way far away from me. And so I was kind of leaning down because there was a bar in front of me, so I like couldn't see um, the whole screen. So I had to lean down, and I was watching the final play. I thought FAU missed that final shot. I didn't know that a rope totally blocked the crap out of that. That was huge. I guess we should go back to before that. Jaden Ledee making that jumper to make it, I believe, a 1-point game, 71-70 FAU at that time, because if he didn't make that, then obviously Lamont wouldn't have had that game-winning jumper. But yeah, huge block by a rope, and then I believe it was Mensah who got the rebound, gives it to Lamont. Lamont goes down. I didn't know if Dutch was gonna call a timeout. In fact, listening back, Nance was wondering that as well on the TV broadcast. I didn't hear the broadcast as this was happening live, so I didn't know that State had a timeout left. I couldn't see that part of the screen. But I guess they had a timeout. Dutch did not use it, and it was kinda like the New Mexico game, right? I don't know if Dutch drew up a play here because they got it off a block. They just had to go and make a shot. They had to come up with a shot. The New Mexico game, I think Lamont was supposed to drive to the basket, right? But then he got up the court kinda slow, and he had to shoot that 3, the game winner, to go beat New Mexico on the road, right? Here, he kinda had to just, like, improvise. Dutch didn't call the timeout, and Lamont looked up, saw there was, like, 2 seconds left on the clock. He was dribbling down the right-hand side, right corner, at least on the television screen, and dribbles back, left hand, up, jumper, hits it, and everyone around went nuts. There were some people because I was working at Snapdragon last night with the Wave, and there were some people that had not come into the stadium yet, and they were going nuts in the parking lot, but they were delayed. So I'm gonna remember this moment for the rest of my life. Right when Lamont hit that shot, I was jumping up and down there, and then like a minute later, other fans started screaming in the parking lot because they just saw it. I guess at Petco Park for the watch party that was happening there, and this happened, I guess, right before the Padres game started because Aztecs game started a little after 3, Padres game was at 5:40, so it did line up like that. Bud Black, by the way, was wearing a San Diego State, Kawhi jersey. I think Bob Melvin was wearing one as well, so Kawhi definitely hooked up both teams there. I think Alan Trejo went to State, Rockies player, he was wearing something too. But the San Diego State the Padres connection there, the Padres watch party, all the Padres fans going nuts. There's a video out, I think, on social media. I apologize to whoever put it out. I totally forget who it was. Uh, but I saw it late at night last night. And I think it was I think it was in the Western Metal building, that bar that they have in the Western Metal Supply Company building. Lamont makes the shot and everyone goes nuts. There's the elite security guards, you know, those security guards in the red at Petco. They're jumping up and down, high-fiving other Padres fans. Like, they're just totally a State fan at that point. Like, they're just a fan. They're not working at Petco at that point. They're just a little kid inside, just a fan. So it's really cool to see the city of San Diego so happy about this team. I know not everyone is a San Diego State Aztecs fan, and that's okay. But for those that are, or even there are some that weren't really, they didn't really pay much attention to this program. But now they have. They started doing it now because of how entertaining this run is or how great this run is, right? I know San Diego State wasn't like a 9 seed like FAU, but 5 seed, they knocked off the best team in the country in Alabama. They beat Creighton. Yeah, I know the first 2 games, those weren't like the hardest opponents, and FAU, yeah, years down the line, we could say, well, they got one lucky draw, but I mean, FAU, they got here too. They were a good team, scrappy team, right? I'm just super, super happy for everyone involved, for those covering it, like John Schaefer, right, who's been on this show multiple times, and very grateful for that relationship that I have with him and Jim. People that just love the Aztecs, alumni, current students, future students like myself, going there in the fall. Like this is great. This is a great moment. It's still like a dream. San Diego State in the national championship game in any sport, that just doesn't even sound right, especially basketball. I know basketball is like San Diego State's thing, right? Basketball school, um, but still basketball, even though it's San Diego State's thing, They're still in the Mountain West. They're not talked about nationally, and they hadn't Dutch this is think about this. This is Brian Dutcher. I know Dutch downplays this, and it's a whole group effort and marches about the players, but this is Brian Dutcher's first tournament where he's had a win, and he's in the championship game in that tournament. So it's like all it takes is one, and then it just snowballs into a much greater thing, right? Oh, man. Talk about, like, a totally memorable Elite 8 and Final Four ending for San Diego State, right? Elite 8, it was a foul, but, the ending was it was obviously stomach in knots, right, for a lot of Aztecs fans when Darion Trammell was at the line against Creighton, right? Misses the first one and has to make the second, right? And everyone's like, "Oh, no, is this gonna go to overtime? What's gonna happen here?" But for the rest of the basketball world that's not, like, really rooting for any of the teams, I could see how you might think that, that was kinda not a very great ending to end it on free throws and a long pass that we knew really didn't have a chance of amounting to anything. But there was, like, the controversy, I guess. That's what makes it memorable, I think, to most basketball fans, the controversy of, "Oh, was that a foul on Trammell?" Yeah, of course it was. He bumped his hip, right? Like, that affected his shot. Of course that's a foul. He was kinda trying to keep him down. So there was that, and then Final Four, Lamont hits the shot of his life. We thought the shot of his life was the New Mexico game, which was a great 3. It was a longer shot and all that, right? He had to come down the court. But this one, Final Four, and this was an actual buzzer beater. I believe the New Mexico one wasn't it might have been. Actually, it might have been a buzzer beater. For some reason, I thought there was like a point one seconds left on the clock on that one. I think that was a buzzer beater. But anyway, Final Four here, hit a jumper. There was no timeout being called. Didn't look like they were gonna have a great chance, a great yeah, a great chance there in that last possession. And he's coming down into the corner. It's like, okay, where are you going with this? You got to put it up. Turns left, couple dribbles, jumper, and hits it. And the crowd, remember, this game's at a football stadium. So the crowd is going nuts. Having Jim Nance on this call was amazing. I don't know if anyone heard Ted Leitner's call on San Diego Sports 760. That was great. Uh, Pretty much what I'm going to remember from that is who's going to the Final Four, not FAU, the Aztecs. He was, for Ted and everyone that's just been in it for so long, and they get this like dream moment. Because is this going to happen again? I hope so, but that's not a guarantee, definitely, right? And now they go and face UConn. Look, everyone is going to say, yeah, UConn's going to win this game. I was watching SportsCenter last night. I think Seth Greenberg was on there. Yeah, UConn's going to win. I don't think San Diego State has this, blah, blah, blah. I don't think they have enough. That's what they said in the Alabama game, right? Was Creighton favored? Maybe San Diego State was barely favored, but Creighton, I think, was the higher seed in that game. Everyone's going to keep saying, yeah, San Diego State, they're not going to win at all. They're not going to win this game. They've continued to say it all tournament long, especially since maybe not all tournament because Charleston and Furman, but since especially starting with the Alabama game, right? And I understand why, like Alabama's the number one overall seed, but it felt like Alabama was like easily going to win according to these experts. Like San Diego State really wasn't given much of a chance. I think they were 7-point underdogs in that game. They win that. They beat Creighton, and now obviously they beat FAU, and they have people saying that yeah, UConn's going to win this game. I understand those people. They see that UConn's the best team in the tournament. But the Aztecs, if there's a team that can hang in with UConn right now, I think it's San Diego State. The defense that they play, if Matt Bradley's shooting well, I know he went he made a few threes, had a really good start, then didn't do really anything for a long stretch there in that game, but he still ended up dropping over 20 points. The defense that they have, the bench they have, the physicality that they play with, they can beat UConn, just like I said that they could beat Alabama. And last time against Alabama, I thought that Alabama was just gonna edge out San Diego State, but they've totally convinced me that they're gonna win this whole thing. I'm not saying it's gonna be a blowout, but yeah, San Diego State, I think they're gonna beat UConn on Monday night, and we're gonna have the biggest moment in San Diego sports history. Would it be? I mean, the Padres, they're bigger. I know they're bigger than San Diego State, and there's more fans of them, and there's more eyeballs on them, but maybe there's not gonna be more eyeballs on the Padres in a playoff game this year than there will be on the championship game on San Diego State. There hasn't been a major championship in San Diego sports, right? NBA wasn't here very long. Chargers never won one. I know that there's been championships in San Diego, right? I the Sockers, they won a bunch. I understand that. But this is March Madness. This is millions of people are going to be watching this. This is Jim Nance on the call. This is going up against UConn. Again, another redemption game, right? They had redemption over Creighton. Now this is a much longer stretch, San Diego State and UConn. But if they're able to knock off UConn, that's going to be like a totally different level, right? Because you just won the championship and you got to kind of revenge that loss with Kawhi, right? Kawhi against Kemba. But yeah, we have not had a championship this big in San Diego sports. Padres haven't won one, haven't been to the World Series since '98. They've won one game in the World Series. This is the championship game. So I don't think I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, excuse me, to sit here and say that this will be uh, the biggest, maybe the biggest win in San Diego sports history. On Monday night, they have a chance to do that. I don't know how much attention is going to be on that Padres game on Monday night. Tony Gwynn Jr., I know he's not going to be paying attention to the Padres game. I think the championship game and the Padre game are starting around the same time on Monday. Padres, Diamondbacks, and then San Diego State, UConn. Tony Gwynn Jr.'s reaction, by the way, in the booth when that happened was great. I don't know if anyone saw that on social media or on Bally, but that was great. Uh, feel a little bit bad for Jesse Agler because he was rooting for Miami, went to Miami, and to have a Padres radio matchup, Jesse against Tony's teams, that would have been kind of cool. But Jesse will probably be on his own on Monday night, and Tony will just be watching the game, and he'll look over to the Padres field and be like, "Oh, nice pitch, nice strikeout, wow, put a good swing on that one." And then he'll go right back to the San Diego State game. So that's Monday. Leave your thoughts in the comments on this win. What a win. What a moment that San Diego sports fans, or those that were paying attention to this game, a moment that they're never going to forget. And Lamont Butler, what a moment for him, huh? I know he already made that New Mexico shot, right, earlier in the season, but to come back from the Arkansas, right, where the Arkansas game where not the Padres, the Aztecs, they could have won that game. They had the lead there late, and then Lamont messes up, I think turned the ball over, goes to overtime. They end up losing to Arkansas, to now making the game-winning shot to put his team into the national championship game. A San Diego team in the national championship game. Still doesn't seem right, but this is reality. This is reality. Wow.